Good afternoon, Mr. Califano. My name is Connor Lane, one of the 10 students working on this policy research project. We're very excited to hear about the steps you took as a top aide to President Johnson and different things you've done throughout your career to comprehensively address poverty in America. And thank you so much for speaking with us today.
President Johnson came at this issue both from his experience in Texas and in Washington. In 1928-29, he taught Mexican-American kids in Cotulla, Texas. When he was elected to Congress, there was no running water in the hill country.
The Skype session with Califano was a really great experience. The biggest thing I took away was having a larger goal with whatever policies that we want to implement, just being very assertive with what we want to do and don't think too small.
It was such an interesting session because he is one of the first people who got on the war on poverty.
The war on poverty was a lot more than the Office of Economic Opportunity. But that was the first really controversial bill because it gave money to the president with a lot of freedom. Out of that program came Head Start, legal aid program, education program for migrant workers.
It's just so shocking and really inspirational to hear about all of the legislation that they were able to pass and how influential they were able to be.
With all the attacks on the programs, 11 of them are still in place.
I think the most valuable thing that I took away from the session was how many war on poverty programs came from the community level, the school breakfast program coming from this idea at a local school that became national policy. That really stuck with me.
The most important thing that he said was that change is so important. Their living situations change and the economy changes, so you can't have a program that's rigid. And then you need to convince people that
all
it's
these programs
beneficial.
have to be changed over time. I mean, I think you can look at Head Start, which is a terrifically successful program. You know, when a program explodes, as that program did, it's very hard to impose protocols. And always remember, change is tough. It is tough, which is one of the things that makes people marvel at how many changes Johnson got.
We are finishing up our demographic research. Now we're getting ready to move on to a new part of our research, implementable policy.
I was assigned single mothers, and the thing that really stood out to me was all the help they need with childcare. The original War on Poverty didn't really address single mothers because they assumed that there would be two-parent households.
Even something as simple as early childhood education or mandatory employer-provided childcare, helps anybody, but it would greatly help working single mothers who may be teetering on the edge that could benefit a little bit more from programs like that. I have learned an immense amount in the past couple of months. We were talking about kind of different policy buckets that we would want to focus on.
Policy bucket is just an overarching concept of a certain policy. So education or temporary assistance to needy families.
And so we're going to kind of use these buckets to guide our research and look for specific policies that we can either improve upon or maybe supplement. I think I gravitated towards technology and infrastructure because that's what I know. But at the same time, I'm open for anything.
The blog we're currently working on is still in the works, but we are each going to be posting weekly headlines, so what are we finding in our own research, as well as some experiential learning we're doing.
Well, the blog is going to be kind of a supplement to the PRP, and essentially we're going to be using it as kind of a channel to go more in depth on topics that we might not be able to address in our report.
Everybody who views this can have their thoughts on board as well, and then we can, take something away from that.
There's just been a lot of new stats thrown at us, and it's good, it's exciting, but we're soon fast approaching the time when we're going to be locked into our specific policy buckets.
We're just going to be having a lot of discussion on which ones we should focus on, which ones maybe don't apply to what we want to do. And hopefully by Christmas we'll have that figured out.
I think it's going to be a lot of kind of updating programs that are already in place to better serve more diverse communities. It's going to be more of an overhaul with some new bold policy ideas, but we're going to keep those under wraps.
Demographic. I was wondering what your opinion of how the face of poverty has changed over time and how you think we can get people to kind of realize this is a public issue. It's not just the poor versus us.
Number one, remember, we had a president that talked about it all the time. You have to get that message out. It's been a long time since anybody's talked about poverty in this country.